It's time to enter the drone zone with me, James Drone, aka Pure Ambient Drone. So hit that subscribe button, tap that bell, and get ready to synth on.
Hey there, Syntrons. We are back with episode number 100 of Midnight Synthesizer Talk with me, James Drone, the voice of synthesizers. And tonight I want to talk about the Arturia Polybrute, something that I have acquired in the last week or so. Very excited. And now this is going to be mostly a talk video, but there will be some demos in with it as well. If you want to see the full sound demos, they're available on my channel. As of this video, I have two videos where I am showing off the sounds from this synthesizer. And let me stress before we get started that this channel has never been about teaching anybody anything about synthesizers, but rather sharing my experience. And so that's the aspect I'm going to take when I talk about this synthesizer. It's going to be my personal experience with this synth in conjunction with all of the experience that I've had with countless other synthesizers over the many decades that I have been into synthesis. So let's just jump in and start talking about the Arturia Polybrute. As you can see on the screen, it is loaded with all kinds of knobs and buttons. This is a tweaker's paradise. You're going to just spend hours per patch enjoying the sounds that you can get out of this monster synthesizer. And I have been getting all kinds of personal messages on social media about how do you like it? What does it sound like? Is it everything that it's cracked up to be? I have to tell you right off from the bat, because I just like jumping right in and just getting straight to the point. I absolutely love this synthesizer. It has become my favorite synth out of all the synthesizers that I currently own that are analog. This is my favorite. There are some things that I wish were a little bit more, but not too many. So I have a question here from GeoSense on my channel, and I think it's some really good questions. It's actually more than just one. It's actually a couple here. I'm just going to read his comment to you first. He says, yes, congratulations on the new edition. Happy face. Arturia really dropped the mic on this one. It was this or the Super 6 for me. Questions. Number one, solid brass sounds. Read about some issues with that. the Poly B seems super solid for pads, bass, etc. Number 2, is there much overlap with your sequential gear? I was leaning towards the Super 6 instead of Poly B. I thought the Poly B would have too much overlap with my OB6 and DeepMind 12. So I answered this question on the actual video where he posted the comment, and I thought it would be good to share some of that here with you. So the Rev 2, which is sequential, I believe that really nails the brass sound that I look for in many of my mixes that call for it. I wouldn't say that the Polybrute would nail a brass sound, but then I have a lot of synthesizers that can do that, and I think that because it doesn't, it adds a different flavor to what I already have. Now, let me clarify. The Polybrute, in my opinion, to my ears, has a very creamy filter, which is very pleasant to my ears. And it reminds me of the toned down filter that the Juno 106 has. And I don't want to compare it to a Juno. This is not a Juno clone. It is not a DeepMind 12 clone. This is its own monster. With that being said, I did some experimentation and found that yes, you can come very close to the Juno characteristics if that is what you so desire. Now, the good thing about that is that you're going to get a vintage vibe out of the Polybrute if that's what you're looking for to get. Again, I have enough synthesizers where I can achieve that sound. Now, here's where the Polybrute differs from just about anything I currently have in my studio. And that is, it's got a modern take on anything that you throw out of it, okay? What I mean by that is when you build a patch, you can get a vintage vibe, but it's going to be a modern take on what that vintage synth was going to sound like. Whereas if you go to a OB6 synthesizer, okay, the OB6 synthesizer is going to give you a much richer, deeper vintage vibe. In fact, for all of my really deep diving vintage needs, I often turn to the OB6 or my Prologue 16. I love the Korg Prologue 16. It is just an amazing synth, and you can get some great vintage vibe out of that. You're not going to get that old classic wonky unstable sound coming from the Polybrute, but that's not what it was made for. And it really astounded me when I got to play this for myself, because once I plugged in the headphones and just started playing some of the pads and the basses and just about anything I wanted to create with this thing, going through the presets, I was absolutely amazed at how clear and precise and analog it sounded, because it is a very warm sounding synthesizer. And I think that has to do with the creamy, buttery filter. And I mean, I just cannot go on enough to just describe the sound out of this synthesizer. It's very creamy sounding, very modern, and it has quickly become my favorite modern synth I've ever experienced. And believe me, I've gone through a lot of synthesizers. I'm of course talking about analog synthesizers. I don't want to compare analog to digital because they're two different worlds. So I don't want to say this is the best synthesizer I've ever had. I don't even want to say it's the best analog synth I've ever had. I'm only telling you that at this point, the Polybrute is my favorite analog synthesizer out of all the analog synthesizers I have or ever have had. It is an incredible journey to take. Every patch is a experimentation in sound. You can lose yourself in it. I haven't had this much fun creating and tweaking patches since I started playing around with my matriarch, which I no longer have, which I actually kind of miss my matriarch, to be honest with you. Okay, so I've talked enough about how beautiful the synth sounds. Let's talk about some of the build quality. The knobs are solid. The buttons all feel great when you're pressing on them. The synthesizer is exceptionally heavy. It's a large synthesizer. I have it stationed over my Moog 1, right below my Juno 106. Very heavy. Did I mention it's heavy? It's very heavy. Of course, I'm getting older now, so things seem to get a little heavier every year. But all joking aside, yes, it does have some heft to it. It is a solid built synthesizer. The keys feel great. There's not a whole lot of noise when you're playing them. The knobs are all sturdy. The buttons are all firm. And the sliders all feel fantastic. Now, getting to some of the things that I wish it had, and really, honestly, I can't really think of anything other than the fact I kind of wish that it had a little bit larger screen, but the one that it has on it is just fine. I can read it. I do wish that it had maybe 8 voices. 12 would be perfect. 8 would be just great. 6 is enough, but you know me, my middle name is Pad, and I like to be able to play some long, drawn-out pads without any kind of note stealing or anything like that. And sometimes that does occur with this synthesizer if you're playing big enough chords. So it would be nice to have 8 to 12 voices. Maybe in the future they're going to up the voice count. I don't know. The DeepMind 12 stayed at 12 voices. The Prologue went from 8 to 16. It would be interesting to see if they did something like Moog, where Moog came out with an 8 voice and then they came out with a 16 voice. It's just kind of interesting to see where Arturia is going to take this. But here's what I got to say. To me, my experience with the Polybrute just makes me think, and I don't know because I haven't spoken with the people over at Arturia, but I just got this feeling by experiencing this synthesizer that Arturia just got together with everybody in some room somewhere, and they said, hey, let's make the best possible synthesizer we can make with all of the knowledge that we know, that we have at our disposal, with all of the tech. Let's just do the best synthesizer we can do and keep it under $3,000. Let's do that. And I think that's what they did. I think that they all got their heads together and they made an incredible machine that by any standards is going to be, I believe, an instant classic. This is something that no matter what other analog synth you have in your studio, I think that you should include a Polybrute. Now, I've got to tell you, I do not get free synthesizers from synth companies. Not on loan and not to keep. I purchase the synthesizers that you see in this studio that I demo on here. Maybe once in a blue moon, I can go to a music store, and out of the goodness of the heart, because they know me and they love my channel, they will allow me to demo a synthesizer there on their floor. But there is no reward to me other than the fact I get to share something with you from any of these synth companies that I have been talking about on this channel. So everything that I'm telling you today about the Polybrute is coming straight from me, from my heart, from my experiences. I am so excited about the Polybrute. I was telling a friend on the phone today that sometimes I'll buy a synthesizer, and right after I play it or the next day, if it's a very pricey synth, if it's over $2,000, I'll wake up the next morning, and sometimes, not all the time, I'll have regrets. I'll be like, sticker shock will kick in, and I'll be questioning whether or not I needed something like this in the studio. And this did not happen with the Polybrute. In fact, the opposite happened. I wake up in the morning thinking about the Polybrute, and when it pops in my mind, I'm excited. I can't wait to get on that synth and explore it and enjoy it. It is a wonderful piece of art that they have done. And here's something else. If this is the direction that synthesizers are going in for the 21st century, I am all in. I am all for it. I'm just so enjoying some of the new tech that is coming out. The Hydra synth, I just did some demos on that one, and that is a keeper. It is staying here in the studio. And as these new synthesizers come out, if they keep making them like the Polybrute, I may have to get rid of some synthesizers, unfortunately, to make some room for some of the incredible stuff that's coming out from these synth companies of late. I'm very, very excited. This is the most, in my opinion, this is the most exciting thing to happen to analog. The Polybrute is the most exciting thing to happen to analog in a long, long time. And I'm very, very, very glad that I can share this all with you here today. I'm going to end this by giving you some of my preset sounds that I did with this. If you want to see the entire sound demos, just go to my channel video section and you can find all of my demos for the Polybrute and other synthesizers that I have demoed as well. Until next time, hit that subscribe button, tap that bell, give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and hey, maybe share it with a friend. Until next time, I am Pure Ambient Drone, aka James Drone. Keep calm and synth on.